Hello, and today you are in for what is going to be a mix between a prime time and a showtime, a prime showtime, meaning the best of Baselworld 2019, the trends, the side stories, the opinions. But March didn't resume itself to Baselworld only. We still have a few other stories and info to share regarding what happened on the watchmaking planet. So take a seat, relax. For those smoking cigars, well, maybe not a bad idea, and off we go for some action. But just before starting and following popular requests, well, here's a quick wrist shot, as I'm wearing today my Girard-Perregaux Laureato Evo 3 from the early 2000s, with its pretty pleasant titanium case to touch. Okay, let's now jump and start with Baselworld, since we haven't shared with you everything we saw there with our individual video reports. So yes, there are still a few things to go over, plus some general appreciation. Let me just say a few things regarding the overall ambiance of this 2019 edition, as we knew it would be kind of a strange one. I mean, 20% less brands, reconfiguration of the space, Swatch Group gone, and with Nick Heyer Jr., that's the big boss of the Swatch Group, saying quite vocally just a few days before the event's opening that they will never ever come back. So, well, much was awaited in terms of how the show will feel. Will it be gloomy or sad or positive? Will we feel enthusiasm? Well, personally, I have to say that I liked it a lot. I mean, things were, of course, quieter, naturally less people visiting, 22% in fact, more open spaces, much more open spaces, and the paradox is that this actually felt pretty good. Strangely, even a little bit of a SHH feel to it, but on our side, well, we were just as busy as ever, so it didn't really change anything for us. We were still running, but running a bit differently, and I will come back on this in a second. So it was interesting to meet the new direction of the event. They have pretty good ideas in terms of redeveloping the show, making it this watchmaking and jewelry community event, community being the key word here, and redesign the overall layout in a more logical and inclusive way. But will they have the opportunity to implement all these ideas? Well, this still remains to be seen, because at the end of the day, it's only a question of money. It's as simple as that. What's my return on my investment? And actually, that's really one of the biggest challenges, as many brands don't consider attending these shows as an investment anymore, but only as a pure expense, difficult to justify any longer. And this problematic goes way beyond watchmaking, actually. I mean, all trade fair faces more or less the same difficulties. So yes, I mean, big challenges ahead. And something that exemplified this rather blatantly is that since I've been attending Baselworld, I have never ever been so much outside of the show itself. I mean, in the different hotels around, where so many brands either took, just a little table here and there, rented rooms or suite to host the retailers and press, and all saying that this totally sufficed for them and costed them a ridiculous fraction of attending the show officially. So one priority mission of this new direction should be to do what it takes to make all these kind of free riders of the event come back inside. I mean, there's something not really fair about it if you think about it. But again, in a complicated and a challenging business environment for watchmaking as a whole, brands, well, they have to be opportunistic. And the fact that a rumored 95 brands were scattered like this around the main fair demonstrates this quite clearly. But at the same time demonstrates that the event's centralizing mission of the watchmaking ecosystem, retailers and press in particular, is still one that seems very pertinent, otherwise they wouldn't come here. But yes, it's a question of money and making it reasonable and sustainable for everyone. And before, there was also this question of arrogance, but hopefully this has been put on the side with this new team. But I can promise you that some are still very reluctant to stay or actually to come back. So we know the solution is a mix between attitude and costing, but how to find a detailed solution is still hanging in the air, I think. And another very concrete example of these tough times is the strong rumor regarding all LVMH brands, Tiger, Bulgari, Zenith and Hublot, pulling out of the event, and same can be said about Breitling, despite the latter benefiting now from a very kind of prime location, as everyone could see them at the end of this mega central alley, and must have satisfied a few egos. But will it be enough? Well, that I don't know. And if all these big players actually do pull out, then I guess that the simple financial equilibrium of the event will be very seriously jeopardized, and it will be up to the organizers to bridge this loss of revenue until the event will be sustainable using a very different model. I really don't know the answers to all these questions, but like I repeatedly said, it would be very sad if this event simply died. But the current situation can really be summarized as some kind of massive conundrum where everyone can and will lose at the end if nothing significant happens. So I know this is a private sector event, but I think that Swiss authorities should do something about it. After all, I mean, watchmaking does reflect strongly on the perception of Switzerland as a country as a whole. It goes way beyond watchmaking in terms of values, perceived quality of things, innovation, and so forth. And again, and you know my feeling about this, but for me, quality watchmaking, of course, doesn't resume itself to Switzerland. But we do enjoy here in this little country from a very enviable reputation, and this should be cherished and taken responsibly by all players. And what is happening now is unfortunately a little bit ridiculous and short-sighted. And actually, well, I just wanted to share a fun and sad story at the same time, because a few years back, I contacted the official Swiss authorities for the economical promotion of the country, and I asked them if they could help me out, not about financing my activity and the production of what we do with our video reports, but help me out with the translation of our video, since I know that not everyone talks English, and for a better reach, well, I think it's important to get as close as possible with the old people that can appreciate watchmaking, since we're all about, you know, sharing precisely these values regarding the Swiss watchmaking industry. I mean, the craftsmanship, the innovation, the fine school and education system, I mean, history, etc. So, you know, positive things. Well, the answer was that they couldn't help out, since this promotion department was actually sponsored by one of the big brands, and therefore there was a conflict of interest. I mean, how silly is that? You know, kind of no comment. Well, sad and short-sighted, I'm telling you, and really not this Viva Watchmaking vision here we have on the Watches TV. I mean, watchmaking should be about pleasure, fun, respect, and enthusiasm. So again, I would really like to thank all our patrons that are supporting us, because through you, we can carry on with this mission and continue to bring our coverage to the next level. I mean, it's all about sharing. Okay. Enough politics, let's now talk watches and continue our review. And regarding the independence we didn't talk about, well, MB&F showed its new Flying T, and this one was greeted by much appreciation, and not only by women. But since we had already aired a video report on this one, well, no need for us to repeat this. And if you haven't seen it, well, link below. But talking Flying T, well, funnily enough, Chopard introduced its own version. Actually, it's called the Flying T Twin, and it's the first flying tourbillon in the L.U.C collection of the brand. I mean, it's very elegant, thin 40mm, rose gold case, nice dial, and technically speaking, this 60-second tourbillon is actually a stop-second tourbillon, a very nice technical feat, and this watch is limited to 50 pieces. We were also pleased to see Kolk officially back in Baselworld in the atelier section. Since the last few years they were there, but using one of those hotels nearby to showcase their novelties. But we won't talk too much either about Kolk, since we do have a special video regarding precisely their main novelty coming soon, coming your way. So, other big brand to show their new watches was, of course, the Crown, Rolex, and last year it was just crazy how they trusted the digital space with their Pepsi GMT. This year was a bit quieter as they introduced other variants of existing watches, for instance, a Batman GMT Master 2, also with the Jubilee bracelet, as well as a bicolor Sea Dweller, nice ceramic bezel of course, and some other new Datejust and date dates. Okay, nothing crazy, but we didn't expect anything crazy either, so all still doing good and strong for Rolex, again in their own league of super brand, and simply hats off for achieving this in their very own way year after year. So other power brands present was of course Hublot, and let's quickly listen to Ricardo Guadalupe, CEO of the brand, talking to us about their main novelty, leveraging as much as possible their Ferrari partnership.
So we launched two products. One is for the 90 years anniversary of the Formula One team, Scuderia Ferrari, for which we have created 90 pieces in 3 models. using the tradition, platinum, so which is a metal that exists since many years in the watch industry. For the present, which is the today carbon fiber that they are using, of course, in the cars and that we use in our watches. And for the future, the innovation, which is sapphire, so it's 3 times 90 pieces, very limited, of course, but commemorating those 90 years. The second one, which is the biggest novelty of the fair, is creating a new watch in the world of more GT, so the Gran Turismo cars that has been designed by the team of Ferrari, Flavio Manzoni, head of design of Ferrari, and we have created this watch that we have called Classic Fusion Ferrari GT, which is totally a redesigned watch, totally contemporary, so we wanted to reinvent what is a classic watch. So a new case, new dial, new hands, new pushers, and I have to say that the result is really amazing, and the reception by the press, the reception by the customer is really impressive. I would say 3 main other watches that we're introducing is linked to art and the tattoo art. So we launched 3 years ago a watch called Big Bang Sang Bleu, made with the tattoo artist Maxime Buchy. After 3 years, we thought that we should come with a second version, so a new version of Sang Bleu 2 that we call, where we have worked really the case more in the 3D design dimension. The hands also very graphic, inspired by the tattoo art. After we have another watch dedicated to women, we think about women as well, with Richard Orlinski, who is another artist, more known for the sculpture with facets. And we have come with a watch where you have the facets on the case, the facets on the dial, some diamonds, and the watch is quite amazing for ladies. And finally, we have also our third collection, which is Spirit of Big Bang, which is a tonneau shape watch with a tourbillon movement that we have reshaped as well, made of carbon fiber.
I have to say that since they've made this collaboration with the French artist Orlinski, I think that Hublot have finally something of their own with this faceted design. Okay, it's not their own since this faceted thing is precisely the signature of the artist, but I hope you get what I mean. And there are some, I have to say, cool technical developments on some of these watches. Hublot has a very interesting R&D department. Okay, next, and Maurice Lacroix is pushing with the Icon collection, which seems to encounter quite some commercial success, proving that there is a viable space for cheaper mechanical alternative. Let's quickly listen to Steven Vasseur, CEO of the brand, regarding a new sporty version.
Well, the Icon Venture is we call it a elegant sport classic watch, but an active one. It has all the characteristics of a diver watch, but we think it's an active, therefore it's called Venture, for risk takers. And it has a 300-meter water resistance, it has a rotating bezel, and also comes with a rubber band.
So what are the kind of, indeed, the combinations that you're offering with this timepiece, and what is the price point?
So we're limiting the offers. So it's only 2 dials, a black dial and a blue dial. And the combination of packages, it always comes a steel bracelet with a rubber band, or caoutchouc band as you call it, for 2,190 Swiss francs.
All inclusive?
All inclusive.
Arnold and Son and Angelus, both brands belonging to Japanese group Citizen, no longer have their own booth in the atelier, but were now precisely hosted in the big Citizen stand. So not too many novelties, more adaptation of existing models. But I have to admit that I did like the new version of the Nebula coming in a smaller 38mm case. It somehow highlights even better the quality of the skeletonized movements. I like those bridges on the side, and there is just that little thing that appeals to me. Arnold and Son is definitely a very interesting brand. The quality is there, original design, and nice movements. We should dig more into this. So last year, Angelus presented a very interesting tourbillon diver's watch, and this year, well, nothing really new about it, apart that it comes in the full black attire. Pretty cool, and price point also pretty interesting for such a limited timepiece. Let's now talk about Zenith, and they have finally managed to master production issues of their revolutionary buzzing oscillator presented already a couple of years ago with the DeFi Lab. This new watch, the DeFi Inventor, is now fully part of the brand's collection, and it's quite cool to witness the arrival of this technology into mainstream watches. Mainstream, you see what I mean. Though this kind of buzzing thing will probably make me too mad if I just look at it for too long, I will just remain mad by myself, much better like this. So the other very cool and rather spectacular watch introduced by Zenith was the D-Fi chronograph, a double tourbillon watch, one tourbillon beating at 5 Hz for timekeeping, and the other one dedicated to the chrono function, beating at 50 Hz. Yes, you heard me right, 50 Hz. So there are still so many things I would like to know and understand about this watch. Hopefully we'll be able to go in much further details in the future, because a 50 Hz tourbillon, well, there are still things that I don't really get how they achieve this. So this watch anyhow came in a carbon case, which leads me to a new version of the D-Fi El Primero, also now coming in a carbon case. Pretty cool watch, looked okay on my wrist. And talking El Primero, well, it's the 50th anniversary of this iconic movement, and based on the commercial success of what they introduced early this year, well, they have now come with another set of revival watches, sticking almost exactly to the very original model, but to make it a bit festive, well, they presented 3 different 38mm gold models, white, yellow, and pink gold models. So obviously it looks pretty nice, pink gold in particular, that's up to me, of course. We also visited the brand Christian von der Klo, known for their astronomical watches. For instance, they have this pretty crazy planetarium watch displaying in real time some of our solar system planets' location in respect to the central sun. The most outer planet features is Saturn, and can you believe that this one makes a full turn on that dial in 29.46 years. I mean, that's some pretty serious gear train behind this. Anyhow, this year was what they wanted to put forward was some kind of online configurator for all their watches. So if you want to play around and see how much would cost your dream astronomical watch, well, just go on to their website. They also introduced a much cheaper watch with a new chronograph, but this didn't really appeal to me. I like the more complex one and the magic of the various indication. Okay, final watch I will talk about concerns a new brand called Alchemists, which were also showcasing their novelty outside of the main hall of the event. So their main particularity is to have developed a metal alloy called cuprum and made mainly of copper, 80%, but with the addition of gold and silver, and its virtue is supposed to transfer positive things, vibe, energy, whatever you want to call it, to your body. So copper wristbands are a long time thing used, and this brand has now simply cleverly adapted to watchmaking, and this alloy is apparently super stable, even more stable than the regular 5N gold. But besides this, we are talking serious watchmaking, very serious finishing involved, and of course a cylindrical hairspring is something that you don't see every day. I guess we will follow up on this in the future too. It's an interesting endeavor, but this brand wants to remain very exclusive, no more than 30 pieces produced per year. But as you can expect, price tag is pretty way up there, yeah, kind of all the way up there. Okay, so this is it when it comes to this 2019 edition of Baselworld. We might still have a couple of individual video reports coming shortly with our good friend Elizabeth Dorr from Quill and Pad and her views on the show, as well as our ladies selection, of course, to be slightly more legit. To talk about this, well, we will do so with our good friend Eleanor from the Eye of Jewelry. Anyhow, in the coming weeks and months, it will be really extremely interesting to see what will happen in terms of the evolution of this event, and in particular, who's in, who's out. Again, ideas to make the show evolve are good, but it will take some time to implement everything, and time is kind of running out. I hope the organizers will be responsible enough to accompany these needed changes, meaning that they can more or less pay for it. And please keep in mind that next year's show will occur in early May, just following the SHH, which has also changed dates to late April to offer this back-to-back experience. I mean, on our side, no idea how we will be able to cope with this, but we will, of course. But the commercial impact of these later editions will mean that brands will unveil their main new watches a bit late in the season. Not necessarily the best news either, and I think this might become a pretty serious issue for some of them. Okay, let's now change environment. And yes, Swatch Group brands weren't present at Basel, but they did their own little thing on their side in Zurich during the same days. but their show was much more of a private one and aimed at their retailers. I talked to a few people that had gone there. Nothing really exciting to talk about, it seems, but what one can say is that for sure not much came out in terms of digital communication, and in a world where to survive you need exposure, well, don't really know how this will play for them in the future. But anyhow, just a few days before the big venue, Omega announced a full gold version with burgundy bezel of its Speedmaster, a watch celebrating the 50th anniversary of the first man on the moon, and a revival of the watch that was at the time given to President Nixon and the astronauts who participated in this extraordinary mission. This watch is limited to 1,014 pieces, and contrary to the original version, this one has a sapphire case back, letting you see the brand's new hand-wound master chronograph caliber 3861. And last news I wanted to share with you is actually a follow-up on what I mentioned in last prime time concerning Swedish connected watch brand Chronobree, which fell into bankruptcy, but we have now learned that they have been bought by watchmaking group Festina, and this is a rather pretty smart move, I must say. The watches were pretty cool, and for Festina it's really an intelligent takeover which will open quite some new opportunities for them. And I'm just a bit surprised in a certain way that other groups didn't fight more for this. And just for info, traditional watches accounted for 56% of overall turnover in 2018 in the US, but for the first time in Q4 of last year, smart watches were actually ahead. And this is simply the new reality that all brands have to take into consideration. The ecosystem has radically changed, challenging times ahead for some. Okay, I will stop here. Thanks for having had the courage to go through all this with me, and just wanted to give you a little heads up on something we will soon publish, because a few days before the big show of Basel, where we went to Japan to discover some pretty cool things over there. So soon we will have a special Japanese week coming your way. Thanks to our patrons, thanks for your support, whether moral or financial, and more than ever, a huge Viva Watchmaking to you. See you real soon.